Imagine a border so significant that it spans continents, yet so elusive that the world itself denies its very existence. Just like we learned about the 7 continents in school, this border challenges the very notion of division. With a single glance, you'll know this is Asia and this is Europe. But why is it that, even today, we can't agree where one ends and the other begins? And why does it matter? Borders are usually defined by rivers, mountains, or walls, lines we can see, touch, and cross with a passport. But what if we told you there's a border so significant that it spans multiple boundaries, yet the world itself denies its very existence? This isn't just any border. It's a line drawn not by nature, but by history, culture, and the human imagination. Just like we were taught about the 7 continents, you might think you know where Europe ends and Asia begins. But as we dive deeper, you'll see that this border isn't as clear-cut as it seems. In a joint effort by cartographers and historians, the line separating Europe and Asia was drawn and redrawn over centuries, creating a boundary that's as much about identity as it is about geography. Let's rewind the clock a few thousand years. Back then, the world was a much simpler place, or so we thought. The ancient Greeks, with their love for categorizing everything, were among the first to draw a line between Europe and Asia. But this wasn't a line you could see on the ground. It was a concept, a way of thinking. They decided that Europe and Asia were separate, distinct realms, and they used the Aegean Sea and its islands as the dividing line. Imagine that, the cradle of Western civilization, perched on the edge of Europe, staring across the water at what they considered a whole different world. But the Greeks didn't just stop there. Over time, as their knowledge of the world expanded, so did their ideas about where Europe ended and Asia began. This evolving border wasn't just about geography. It was about power, identity, and the human need to create order out of chaos. By the time the Romans came along, the line had shifted again, moving north to the Bosporus and the Black Sea. But even then, there was no consensus. Some argued that the true border was the Don River, far to the east. Others suggested that the Caucasus Mountains were the real dividing line. And so, for centuries, the debate raged on. As Europe entered the Renaissance, a new wave of exploration and discovery brought fresh challenges to the old ideas. The world was getting bigger, and so were the questions about where Europe ended and Asia began. It was no longer just a matter of culture or politics. It was about science and geography. European cartographers, armed with new tools and knowledge, began to redraw the lines. In the 18th century, the German-Swedish geographer Philip Johann von Strahlenberg proposed a new boundary, a line that followed the Ural Mountains, the Ural River, and the Caspian Sea. This was a bold move, one that effectively redefined the map of Eurasia. But even as these new boundaries took shape, the debate continued. Some scholars argued that the Don River, not the Ural, was the true border. Others looked even further east, to the Yenisei River in Siberia. The Ural Mountains, with their rugged peaks and forbidding landscapes, seemed like a natural divide. But nature, as it turns out, doesn't always cooperate with human ideas. The Urals don't extend to the Caspian, and the line that runs through them is as much a product of human imagination as it is of geography. And what about the Caucasus Mountains? This towering range, stretching from the Black Sea to the Caspian, has long been seen as a natural barrier between Europe and Asia. But here, too, the line is anything but clear. Some argue that the true border lies further north, along the Kumamanic Depression, a lowland that cuts across the Caucasus foothills. Others suggest that the border should follow the watershed of the Greater Caucasus, placing the entire mountain range in Europe. The debate is far from settled, and the line between Europe and Asia remains as fluid as ever. But this border isn't just about geography. It's about people, about how we see ourselves and each other. The line between Europe and Asia has shaped identities, cultures, and histories for thousands of years. In many ways, it's a line drawn in the mind as much as on the map. Take the case of Turkey, a country that straddles both continents. Istanbul, the city where east meets west, is divided by the Bosporus Strait. One side is Europe, the other Asia. But what does this dividing line mean for the people who live there? For centuries, Turkey has been a crossroads of cultures, a place where different worlds collide and coexist. And then there's Russia, a nation that spans 2 continents, its identity forever split between East and West. Russian leaders, from Peter the Great to Vladimir Putin, have wrestled with this dual identity, trying to define what it means to be Russian. Is Russia a European power, a part of the West, or is it something entirely different, a civilization unto itself, stretching across the vast expanse of Asia? The answer, it seems, depends on who you ask and when. Even smaller nations like Georgia and Armenia find themselves caught in this continental tug-of-war. These countries have deep cultural and historical ties to Europe, yet geographically, they're anchored in Asia. Their stories remind us that borders, even those drawn on maps, are often as much about perception as reality. The line between Europe and Asia may be a product of history, but it continues to shape the present. So, where does Europe really end and Asia begin? The truth is, there's no simple answer. The line has shifted over centuries, shaped by politics, culture, and the ever-evolving understanding of the world. Today, the official border runs along the Ural Mountains, the Ural River, and the Caspian Sea, then follows the Caucasus Mountains to the Black Sea. But even this line is not set in stone. In some places, it's a mountain range. In others, a river or a strait. And in some cases, it's little more than an idea, a concept that exists in the minds of those who believe in it. What makes the Eurasian border so special is that it's the only continental divide marked by mountains rather than rivers. It's a border that's both natural and artificial, real and imagined. And yet, despite its importance, it's a border that many people, especially those who live far from it, never think about. It's a line that separates, but also connects. It's a reminder that borders are as much about human history as they are about geography. But perhaps the most important question isn't where the border lies, but why we care so much about it. What's the point of dividing this single landmass into two continents? Why does it matter whether a place is in Europe or Asia? The answer, we think, lies in our need to categorize the world and make sense of the chaos around us. By drawing lines on maps, we create order, even if that order is an illusion. We divide the world into neat little boxes, each with its own label and its own identity. But as the story of the Eurasian border shows, these boxes are never as clear-cut as they seem. In the end, the border between Europe and Asia is more than just a line on a map. It's a symbol of our need to make sense of the world, to categorize and define what we see. But as much as we try, the world resists our efforts. The Eurasian border is a reminder that borders are fluid and change with time, politics, and our understanding of the world. They are products of human imagination as much as of geography. So, where does Europe end and Asia begin? The answer might just depend on who you ask and when, and perhaps that's the point. The border between Europe and Asia isn't just a line. It's a story, one that continues to evolve, to challenge, and to inspire. A world where borders are increasingly questioned, it's a story worth telling. Now that you've journeyed across continents with us, what's your take on the Europe-Asia divide? Is it just a human construct, or does it hold a deeper meaning? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your perspective in the comments below, because borders might divide us, but conversations bring us together. And if you've enjoyed this exploration of one of the world's most debated borders, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the quirks and curiosities of our world. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, borders are just the beginning of the story.